Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Method Grid Live demo. So I'm Pip Morpeth, I'm the CEO for Method Grid, and we thought we'd just run a live demo, just following all the events that we've been to across June. So I think we met some of you at Digital Construction Week, the APM conference, and House of PMO. So we just thought just make it easier just to run through the live demo of the platform on the webinar. I'll just bring up the screen. Let's move through it. So for the demo, what I thought I would do is just give you a bit of background about Method Grid, the kind of problem that we're trying to solve with the platform, and then get into a demo of the platform, show you how you go about codifying ways of working, how you build playbooks within the platform, and then how you use them to assure project or service delivery. And then just time at the end, really, for any questions you have about the platform or any questions about the business. Lovely. So quickly, this is the kind of the core problem that we try and solve with Method Grid, which is really it's the cost of poor, inconsistent project or service delivery is just too high. It's kind of the cost of poor quality associated with how we're doing it, caused from inconsistent ways of working, constantly reinventing the wheel and not kind of codifying and standardizing our ways of working. So that's the core problem that we built Method Grid to solve. I think the pain symptoms, I won't go through all of them, but the typical ones that people will call out is as a business, they recognize that the way they do things is inconsistent. Two, I think for those at a point in time, they realize that actually what's in place isn't really helping teams collaborate and be effective in applying the ways of working. It's kind of disjointed. There's lots of standards, there's lots of procedures, but it's all scattered in different places that people have to find, which is two. And that tends to lead, the kind of common frustration they have is that we just generally feel that we're constantly reinventing the wheel. Like we don't feel like every project is unique and different, but actually a lot of it is repeatable, but it still feels like we start from scratch. Or it can be the kind of the more human element to it, which is our ways of working aren't easily accessed and understood, and people just come in and go, well, can't follow that, didn't even know it existed, we're going to do it my way, and that kind of contradicts the kind of what you're trying to help people do is kind of execute and deliver your way. And what we find in those environments is kind of seven, which is just staff well, it's very disorientating for staff, but also it takes them an incredible amount of time to work out how you want them to work your way. And in some firms, it's not ideally the 12 weeks is what you're trying to look for. And it depending on how scattered things are, it can be up to a year, 15 months before they feel fully grounded in understanding how you want them to deliver projects and services. I'll move on. I mean, I'd say everyone we speak to is always unique. Some are kind of low, medium, and high on those pain symptoms, but I'd say 1, 2, 6, and 7 are always quite high in everyone that we speak to. The why so for us is first point is you have to give people clarity on what the process is that they need to follow. So clarity on the method is key. But the common kind of feedback about the traditional approach that we take to documenting methods or processes is, I've written it all down, job done, but actually I just feel like it sits on the shelf. People can't find it, don't know it exists, and when they do find it, it's very hard for them to actually translate it into delivery and work with the teams or suppliers or client in terms of translating actually how we would actually deliver that process and that methodology. So what we find is, yes, people will have clarity, but actually compliance is the problem that everyone has. The people capability side is just focusing on what humans need to help them kind of perform a process, the kind of fear index. If someone feels they're not confident in doing something, or if they try and do it, they're going to look bad. That kind of human behavior is to default to what they feel comfortable in and default to what they know. Now that, unfortunately, kind of tends to lead to the behavior of, oh, I don't know how to do it, let's do it my way, or I can't find it, I've never used it before, maybe we should just use this template that we used before. And that might not be the kind of ways of working that you want teams to follow. But normally it's kind of, what have you put in place to build up the individual's confidence in executing your processes, using your templates, and following it consistently. Kind of say here is probably like 1, 2, and 3 are always in your gift. They're kind of in your control. If you run like a delivery function, you're always going to be, how clear is the method? How compliant are we? What controls do we need? And what's the kind of level of investment that we can put in our people? The fourth point is just the kind of residual risk. And we live in kind of project world, so there'll always be audit and assurance and a set of standards that you want people to follow. I think the reflection point is, I think a lot of teams get quite frustrated when they're going to gates and it's not clear on what evidence is required, what's the exit criteria. And you kind of, if you look at kind of gate compliance and gate performance, if you have a low kind of pass rate at gates, probably it's normally leading to the fact that we haven't really been consistent or clearly articulated what is required in order to go through the gates. I think then from an audit or kind of assurance perspective, I think they can be quite a grind on the team. Like when you have other people trying to come onto your project, so where's X, where's Y, you spend a lot of time going, well, you need to look in that folder over there, and it's that folder for that, and oh, it's over in that system you need to have a look at. And actually, kind of audit assurance tend to be a bit of a drag on the teams, because then they have to kind of, again, when you onboard new people to a project, kind of where is everything? And so really, when we looked at MethodGrid, it was how do we address this problem? Because when you think about technology, you can buy platforms that can hold knowledge, you can buy platforms that kind of map processes, and you can definitely buy platforms that will kind of track project and controls. What we felt was, actually, just think, if we were to add a new product into the market, do you just build a new project platform? But actually what we thought would be more beneficial, especially for the kind of consulting world and for the large organizations that manage large capital portfolios, is a solution that would try and merge the capabilities required to do that. And that's what we tried to do with MethodGrid. So how do we solve it? So the first thing we drew is, when we thought about what does the human need, it was very clear that we wanted to kind of merge knowledge and task project into one platform. But what was really sort of insightful on that journey was actually what clients wanted was, I don't have just one way of working. I have multiple different types of scenarios that we deliver in. And actually what I want is a kind of a flexible platform or a flexible system I can use to kind of build those different ways of working. And that's the kind of core concept. So we came up with the concept that you can build like playbooks in the platform, and you may build more than one playbook for the types of projects. You may have a generic playbook for, like, this is our capital project delivery. If we work in highways, we've got one. If we work in the rail sector, we've got one. Or potentially, maybe we deliver this project or this solution and we deliver it every month, or we deliver it 4 or 5 times a year. Actually, maybe we build a specific playbook for how we actually execute and deliver that project, so that we can kind of really make it fine-tuned for the scope of that project. The second point is, it's like MethodGrid, or the grid we just felt was the best way of structuring it logically. Columns would become stages. You could put chevrons in between the kind of each stage to kind of represent the stage gates. And then you would be able to build out all the different functions that are involved in the capital project delivery lifecycle, or any kind of project lifecycle. But I think the key focus was, rather than it just be like a playbook just for a particular set of groups, like, or maybe just the project managers, we wanted the playbook to be able to be, no, we need to really coordinate loads of different people, like different functions within the organization. Sometimes it's different suppliers, or it's different, like maybe the clients involved. So really be able to kind of flush out the kind of end-to-end delivery life cycle, but also allow that to be codified across the ecosystem that's trying to deliver it. And then I kind of make the point, we didn't really want to make it a platform, like a single platform. We recognize that clients will have like SharePoint, OneDrive, or they'll have other systems like Risk Connect, or potential like CDEs. They'll use Procore or Autodesk. But still, I still need to find a way that I can clearly articulate to the teams what the process is, where are we in the process, and potentially what evidence do I need to see as we navigate the left to right. So really for us, we're just trying to make it more the veneer that teams can use and control and edit and refine, but really to give them a clear articulation of the end-to-end delivery process that they're following. The third point is, and this is just probably how the platform's evolved. I think it was Mace and TNT came to us, and when we first built the platform, it's very much focused on the kind of knowledge elements of playbooks. And the kind of feedback was that we really like the playbook, but actually we still have a problem. And that problem is when we're on projects, a methodology says that we need to do this, but actually in reality, sometimes when we speak to the client, they want us to move this around and adjust it, and we need to right size it. And actually we're doing a few deliverables that are unique to that particular project, so we need to add those. And I think the kind of feedback was, look, rather than it just be like someone's documented it and written it down, it was, look, can we like clone a playbook for every project, and then we give an instance of that playbook to the team and say, right, well, that's your instance, got all the templates in, got all the knowledge, got all the controls pre-built. Go away now, tailor it, right size it, but I want you to use this clone as the vehicle for tracking and evidencing to us that you're kind of compliant with ways of working. And the kind of trade-off is, I'm giving you all the templates, all the instructions and guidance you need to be able to complete it. So that's the kind of master clone concept. And then the fourth point is, we moved into that mode, recognized that clients are going to want to track progress on playbooks, progress on gates. And so we just built the reporting aspects, but most clients will just plug Power BI into the platform or take the data out through our API and integrate it into other reporting. I think the important bit for us is to look at, well, if we take that concept of like the information they need when they need it, what other things can we add to the platform? So key one that we've been working on is lessons learned. So can we find a mechanism that looks at your kind of lessons learned, looks at your playbook, looks at where you are, and actually pushes contextual lessons that are relevant at the point of where you are in the playbook, rather than just at the start and the end of the project. So that's some of the kind of R&D research that we're doing with AI, machine learning, on the use of how we better integrate lessons learned into the platform. So the core concept really is a single platform to connect knowledge, process, and delivery. But it's very much that it's a platform that allows you to define and then deliver your way. It's very much that, yes, in our platform, there are example playbooks that you can use, but this is very much giving you a platform by which that you can build and define your project life cycles that you want to use. So you can build the kind of process and compliance aspects of it. Key point, and we kind of probably say this is still what we differentiate on, is when we're asking people to do something, like the tasks and controls are there, but the knowledge and guidance you need are side by side. Don't really want people trying to, like, well, I don't know how to do it, can't find the template, or don't know where to go. It's essentially trying to ground them to make sure they've got that at their fingertips. And then the kind of more recently, it's just then, okay, well, we've got training and we've got learning assets. How can we integrate those into the playbook so that if you can't remember how to document requirements, or you can't remember how we want our kind of risk management framework, you can then access the training and learning rather than just like on your onboarding experience, but actually when you're in delivery, when you're working, making sure that the learning you've built is accessible when it's most needed by people. This is just about 2 more minutes, and then I'll get into the platform. This really just summarizes why did we want to try and address it? What's the core things that are stopping people be consistent? We totally recognize that processes will give people clarity on what they want them to do, but I think in reality, what we find in practice is the kind of mentality of, well, we've written it down, job done. There's still quite a high drift between, look, that's the standard I want people to meet, but in reality, over time, how work is done has drifted from that standard. Now, I think you get away with that with quite simple processes, but when you're dealing with kind of complex, multi-integrated processes like project, health and safety, design management, engineering, construction, only takes a few wrong moves or turns in that process, and you will then eventually create a critical failure event. Now, that could be that we fundamentally mess something up in the design. I think the more sort of concerning one is actually we didn't follow process and someone didn't go home safe. So that's the kind of core focus, is really we set the policies and standards in place, but really what we want is high compliance to it. I've kind of alluded to it, but I think this is the core problem, which is it's that mentality. I've written it down, job done. We place the burden on the individual to go and find where the process is, but that process doesn't exist in just one location. It'll be, look, you need to read this for that, you need to read this over here for this is in this SharePoint, that's in that SharePoint site. Oh, we haven't written that down yet, so go and speak to that person. In reality, what they're trying to do in their head is build this I call it kind of a web of death, really, which is where everything is, and then I need to then try and translate that into a logical left to right, and then I need to communicate it to my team so they understand it, and also then I need to give clarity to the client in terms of how we're actually going to manage and deliver the project. So we find the core problem is the cognitive load. We just overload people, and it's very difficult for them. The other point is, like, humans are, we're lazy. We always kind of look for the path of least resistance. So if your individual, like if your teams or employees are struggling to find the information they need when they need it, it takes more than a minute for them to find it. I think that will default them to want to take control of it. They'll be like, I've searched here, I've searched there, I can't find it. Do you know what? Let's just use this on my laptop that I used on my last project in. But the problem is that might not be from the company that they currently work from. But really, you've got probably about 60 to 120 seconds really to give employees the information they need before they start that kind of behavior kicks in. The kind of core challenge with it, and we call it the shelfware trap, and it's one where if you're in an organization that suffers high drift, and then you kind of have low compliance with people following process, the natural default response is, well, we need more checklists, we need more people checking other people's work, and we need more independent assurance at gates or at particular milestones. Now, you will always need like 3 lines of defense in how you deliver projects or services. What we try and advise you is to say, look, don't overinflate lines 2 and 3 for the fact that you've made it very difficult for teams to actually be compliant with the process in the first place, because it's not really clearly articulated, it's not universally understood, and therefore, as a consequence, it's not consistently followed. Tom's going to put the link to the white paper. So this white paper just brings all of that thinking together, but mainly focused on what's going on in the kind of human psychology of how you need to think about what needs to be in place to help teams be consistent in how they work. And the platform, we mainly focus on the built environment, moving recently kind of into renewables with SSE and ocean winds. I'd say the most common playbooks we build are capital project delivery playbooks. So it can be kind of REBA playbooks, or it can just kind of be pre-construction, construction processes. But also we do have other like IT-based project delivery playbooks that clients have built as well. I'd say the core outcome that we're always trying to help clients with kind of is making sure that just your ways of working are clearly articulated, universally understood, and then consistently followed. That's the kind of 3 kind of core mantras that we kind of work with each client to kind of get that outcome. Right, so I'm going to bring up the platform. Let's bring it up. And let me just switch over to my screen. There we go. So this is what a playbook looks like. You can see here I've got the stages. So I've got identification, initiation. I think this is program management. I've got delivery. I'll have the kind of deployment process. And potentially at the end, I've got the kind of closure. In some cases, some clients will add in the kind of handover as well. So they're my kind of stages. I have stage gates that I can put in between each stage. So here I can record the outcome for each stage. I'd say data tells us that most gates are a conditional pass, but then we can record what the conditions are in the playbook and any actions that were taken from the gate. But you then have what's important for teams is, look, this is what this gate is about. This is the objectives that we want you to meet, but be very transparent in this is the exit criteria or questions that you need to answer. So please, make sure that you've ticked these all off. And further down somewhere, this is the evidence that we need to see in order to pass that this gate has been complete. And some clients will use this as the gate certificate because it will be a recorded transaction of the decision that was recorded and what evidence was provided in order to make that decision. So that's kind of the left to right in terms of the life cycle and gates. And then you have the ability to build your theme. So you can say, well, look, here's program project management, here's organization and governance. Further down, this is business change. If you're in the construction world, it would be here's project management controls, here's design management, here's sustainability, here's procurement. But essentially what it allows you to do then is for each stage and for each logical function that's involved, you can then start to map out, well, what is actually required? What do we actually want you to do? So you can build what we call elements. I'll open up an element. This is what we're trying to do. And remember what I said before, it's making sure if I'm asking you to do something, how you do it is side by side. I think, so when we speak to most clients and the feedback that they've had from their staff is, look, you're really good at telling us the what we have to do, but you're very poor on the how. Method Grid is trying to just get that balance reshifted, or at least give you a platform that you can iterate and build that over time. So you can provide a description about why it's important. You can integrate kind of videos. If there's a deliverable, you can put a link to that deliverable, and here you now have access to the template, some best practice examples, the quality criteria that's involved. But also you can be really clear to them in terms of, well, who needs to produce it, who needs to review it and approve it. And sometimes clients will also build the approval workflow tasks underneath this section just as the way of evidence. But then you also have, this is very popular, is if I've never done this before, or if the client's asked me a difficult question, I don't know who to speak to, rather than sort of trawl around and shout at the office, look, anyone got any advice? I may have experts within the firm that I can speak to, and therefore, okay, look, I can then chat and interact and say, look, Harry, have you got 10-15 minutes just to talk me through, or this client has asked me whether we can do X and then Y, what are your thoughts? And what we're trying to do with this is just help your employees build the network of people that they rely on. And all we're doing is just giving them a little bit more guidance about who those experts are, so that you channel them to the right people. The kind of more advanced things that we've been doing with clients, like I said about the e-learning piece, was, okay, well, look, I might have risk management. I can open that up. I'm not asking them to do anything with this element, but it's just giving them context about what is risk management, what are our key lessons learned. You may have other systems that are involved in managing and tracking risk, so you can link to other systems. You might link to APM resources that give them more context. But this is the kind of example where you can say, well, actually, here's our e-learning course on risk management. And even though I'm within the playbook, I'm actually now interacting with an e-learning course. But from a user's perspective, I'm not having to log in and change to a different system. The learning and information I need is there when I need it, and I can drill down and get into the rabbit hole of the level of detail I need. So that is like the core concept of the playbook in terms of the end outcome that you've built. The next bit is, well, how do I actually build a playbook? We keep the interface fairly simple, so I can click on the pencil, and as you can see now, this would give me rights to say, well, look, what do I want to call my stages? How many stages do I actually have? How many themes do I want? And then I can be, okay, I can tweak this around. I think, you know, I can move and adjust them around. So the kind of core fabric of a playbook is fully customizable in terms of the stages and the layout that you want, but it's mainly there built to kind of reflect your way, your stages, your different functions, and your themes. You then build elements. So I can build an element. Again, we didn't really want to codify any limitations in how you wanted to codify ways of working, because sometimes you might say, well, look, we end state looks like this, but actually what we need is something a bit smaller. You know, it might be that, well, we want a short description for why it's important. And I like the idea. I definitely want the kind of checklist, like the key activities. And I like the idea of who do you go and speak to, and I'll move that around and adjust it. But as you can see, you know, it's me doing it, so it's obviously quite intuitive. But it's giving the business the ability to codify their ways of working. I'll put a video in as well, without any limitations. We don't really want it that you had to rely on method grid expertise in order to codify your playbook. The platform is built as a no-code platform that allows you to codify your ways of working. There are a few things we've learned on the way to help clients with it. Sometimes it can be quite an undertaking. Like some clients have got it, well, we've got it written down and it's in massive SharePoint, or, you know, it's actually we've got some PowerPoints, but that's about it. So what we wanted to try and do is work out how quickly can we help clients build playbooks. So I'll give an example of a deliverable, like a BIM execution plan. Whilst we built the ability to build templates for elements, we also connected method grid to a language model to allow it to leverage large language models to help you codify ways of working. So this here is an example. You can see there's a few templates within this account, but here's an example one that's for a deliverable. But clients, or you within the platform, you can tailor the kind of prompts, the level of detail that you want to come back. So hopefully, if I click on that in about 5 seconds, I'll get at least a kind of draft response for the description, the purpose. So there you go. So look, it's given me like a purpose for what BIM execution plan is. It's suggested some key activities that you need to complete in terms of completing a BIM execution plan. It's articulated what the objectives are. It's said, look, this is the kind of suggested format composition for a BIM execution plan. And this is quite useful as well, is just what is the quality criteria that we want that deliverable to meet. It can put in some hints and tips just to help, and you can refine these and add to them. It's had a go at the quality responsibilities for this particular deliverable. So who has to produce, review, and approve it? Now, common one is these may not be your roles that you recognize within the organization, but with a bit of tweaking of the model and a bit of tweaking of the query, you can make it be more specific to your roles. But if you can imagine, in terms of giving you a way of like an MVP of your ways of working, at least now I kind of have a working draft that I can work through and tweak and adjust in terms of building the content. The other aspect then is, okay, well, that's great. I've built my method and I've built my methodology. How would teams actually use this in practice? So the core concept is I can have I'll just check if this one is set up as a master. So yeah, I can see that this one here is a master. It's been set as a master playbook. Okay, so we can then clone it and use it for projects. So I would click on here and then I have the ability to clone this playbook with all the elements. And when it does that, it will be a fresh copy that I can use and tailor for a particular project. I won't do it now because it takes about 30 seconds to clone. But once I clone, I can then go in and give the project its unique name. I can assign it to the relevant person that's managing this project. We can move it from into progress so that we're tracking it. But then what's probably more important is we can then start to assign like individual activities to the team members that are going to start working through it and owning it. And you know, there's the BIM execution plan that we've added for that particular deliverable. Rosie's been assigned, she's been tracked onto it, and you know, Rosie can then go and tick off and go, yeah, I've done this and done this. And if we need to, you can say, well, look, actually, I don't do the schedule, someone else does the schedule, and Harry, I need you to do the schedule. And then Harry will get a notification, say, Harry, can you help Rosie with the execution plan, please? The other aspect of it is the kind of compliance angle. So I want to ensure that whilst people are ticking things off, there may be certain things that I need to see the evidence to prove that it's been done. So on certain elements or tasks, I'll open this one up. I'll say, look, well, I can tick off Harry's work. So Harry's completed that now. And now I want the PDD to be approved. So when I click on this activity, some activities can be set to say, look, this one requires evidence to be attached and uploaded. So I can't just tick it off and approve it. I can also nudge where is the evidence and just get a polite reminder about where things are. But if I have to attach evidence, I can then, like I say, I can upload from my computer. I'll do that one just for now, or I can go and search for the relevant Teams or SharePoint site that the teams are using for deliverables. Or what's common as well is potentially I might have like a CDE environment and there's a link within that environment that I just want to attach the link so that when that's the evidence, and then people can click that link, and as long as they've got access to the underlying document management or CDE system, they'll be able to view that evidence. But yeah, it's quite simple. I just select it, it will open up. I'll just find my documents. So there's the PDD. Open it, attach the evidence, and close that down. And then what also is visible now is that link or asset that you've used for evidence is now available on the playbook. So if people are trying to find what's the latest version or what is the kind of evidence that we've used, where is it? then audit and assurance can just open up the playbook. It's there, it's transparent, and they can review it. If they're not happy, with it, you know, I can chat with Sonia and say, Sonia, look, I've reviewed it. We need. It's all good, or actually, there's non-conformance or compliance issues. I need you to resolve before we can approve it. And so that dialogue is then recorded as well and tracked. And then the other aspect is, okay, well, once that's done, I can tick it off. You then can start to see that the display, how the playbook displays things to tasks. You'd say, look, some tasks are overdue, some have like the elements overdue, so that's a bit more risky, and you can see the elements complete. You can see some other kind of labels that you can attach, so you can be clear about what are mandatory deliverables or what's required for medium, small, large projects is also quite a common way of using labeling. But really, this is just to give teams transparency on where am I, what's key, and what evidence is required for us to kind of work through the end-to-end, left to right of the playbook. I'd say like 90% of all users are in this view, especially when they're with teams. But you can switch to a Gantt view. I think I've seen this today. So you can, in your playbook, define the predecessors and successors between the activities, the elements. All we've done is that when you build this in the master and you set the durations and you set those dependencies once, when you clone it, it remembers that and it will pre-build the schedule based on the master. And that just gives at least teams an out-of-the-box schedule that you can do. But there is probably more of a common world in our world with playbooks is normally the schedule is in P6 or in other systems, and method grid is just a slave, just tracking key milestones, i.e. gates and compliance or key deliverable milestones that is informed by other systems through the API. So that's the Gantt. Then if you've got multiple clones, I'll just jump out of this, you can put those playbooks into different folders. So here's my portfolio, here's the Trinity program. Trinity program has more than one grid that's currently working on. I can see the status of all of those grids at a high level here, or if I need to see how all of those timelines are represented across the different projects. I think what you can see here is that some of these projects have dependencies between them as well. So you can have cross dependencies between projects. If you're living in a kind of complex program portfolio environment that's kind of interconnected, you can manage those relationships within the process. We also provide like the standard things that you'd expect, so you can baseline and also show the critical path in your portfolio Gantt. I wouldn't say, look, we're not really like the full portfolio management system, but essentially we're just making sure that if you're using playbooks for the assurance and delivery of projects, that they can be connected and you can get an outline timeline for your portfolio. And then just in terms of the reporting aspects of it, so you can build your own dashboards for each individual grid, or yes, this one is looking, the account one looks across all playbooks that you have in the platform. But again, we didn't want to put any limitations. It's really allowing clients to build their own dashboards and own widgets, and then you're just building through filters, connecting it to the different grids or data sources that you want. Through this view as well, I can have a look at all the, I think this one will always default to what I'm assigned to. So these are the projects that I'm currently working on, but can get told off. But again, if I need to have a look at all playbooks or playbooks within particular folders, I can have a look at all of the projects about how they're assigned in their delivery. And that is the same for kind of all elements, tasks, stage gates that I need to have a look at. And if I need to, as you can see, these are all of the activities that I've done as I've been in the demo. So we can track a complete audit trail of who's done what, when was something ticked off, so that you have the kind of ultimate evidence in terms of the audit history and controls for if you ever get audited or assured. Finally, just I've shown you like a playbook view, but naturally that won't be like the core view. So this is when I log into the platform, I'm normally defaulted to this view. So it shows me like what's due this week, next week, what's overdue, and what playbooks am I currently working on in terms of a project. So you can see I've got different ones for here's Network Rails. Potentially you've got other use cases for like operational maintenance playbooks. This one here is an ISO playbook that helps you with going through your ISO 9001 compliance. But again, the concept is rather than try and live in a world where you're trying to have just one way of working, because sometimes that just becomes too abstract for people. You've kind of normalized it so much, it's probably lost its relevance. It's really about looking at the different projects that you deliver, looking at their life cycles, looking at the client's life cycle, and codifying your way of working around that. So you can build, I mean, I think we make this available on a platform like Pace. So this is Network Rails, and this is Pace for capital project delivery at Network Rail. Again, this is all deliverables, evidence you need to go through the Pace lifecycle. We have some clients that work with Network Rail directly. So when we built this for Network Rail, you will see that we do provide specific examples. So Pace is already a kind of in the store, and you can just clone that directly in the playbook. Similar, if you wanted to start off a 10 of a playbook, Praxis is also available. And as we kind of work on other, I think the latest one that we're working on is the Reba playbook. So a kind of logical capital project delivery playbook built around the Reba stages. Right, so that is kind of your whistle-stop tour through the platform. I'm on time somehow. So yeah, I just wanted to ask if you have any questions about the platform, or yeah, about MethodGrid. So if you have never used Livestorm before, there's the little panel on the right hand side. You can just use that for kind of questions, or if you're comfortable with it, you can just fire them through in the chat. I'll have a look through them. Cool. Oh, I've done a perfect demo. I'll take that as feedback. But oh, Richard, do you know how in-depth NR is using the playbook checklist you showed? Richard, I think at the moment, so there's an online version of that playbook that's read-only. So the read-only playbook is basically publicly accessible. Everyone can access that, including the supply chain. At the moment, the regions now have access to the full version of the platform, and I think they are doing pilots on individual projects for using the playbook to track and assure project delivery. But at the moment, it's just individual pilots that are going on in each individual region. That's for Pace. I think we've just launched the sponsors playbook, which is slightly different, which just is a playbook built for sponsors. So it just guides sponsors through the kind of end-to-end capital project delivery process of what they're all responsible for. And I think we just I think it's still in development, but there is then a like a commercial and procurement playbook that we've built for Northwest Central, but a few other regions are really interested in that. But that's more about the kind of NEC kind of contracting process, and that's again been used in its kind of full compliance mode. But I think we're just working on a bit of PR, and I think it's going through a few final tweaks with the team before it's ready for launch. Yeah, Richard, I'll drop you a note about who to contact within the network rail, just about the individual areas that we're working with and who we're working with. Cool. In terms of next steps for us, I'll just run through this. So please feel free to download like the Process to Playbook guide. There's also other resources on our website, like building world-class playbooks is another resource that we built, just talks you through our design process that we've learned, like how do you actually go about codifying project delivery methods. The next bit, it's got quite a lot of interest. We've now got, I think, 2 prime funders at the moment, just in what we call template dynamics. I think we'll push the video out shortly. Essentially, as you saw in the playbook, I can upload a template. This is just building on that and the use of AI, which is great. You've uploaded the template. There's just going to be a button next to the template that says, I want you to create my first draft for me. So when you do that, what MethodGrid will do is it will upload the template. It'll upload information about the project that it knows about within the grid. It'll also upload the detail of the element. So like the quality criteria will also be in there, and then it will work with you section by section of the template to complete that deliverable. So that's one of the latest kind of things that we're working on in R&D. So hopefully, I think we're quite close to being able to confirm the dates for when we think that will be available. But yeah, we'll push the video out on LinkedIn. So yeah, if you don't follow us on LinkedIn, please do, because we kind of push out kind of R&D and kind of our events. So yeah, please click the follow button on LinkedIn. And then just to say, I think most of the places are locked in. I think there are a few spots available. So if you are interested, we are running, we did the event last month, which is about the future of work and AI. And it's just kind of reflecting on like the shift in thinking that platforms have to do. So whilst we've been building features, which is great, actually a lot, the kind of shift now is more clients want more ownership of AI within their own organization. But this event is focused on AI. We're going to go do a few talks on it. There's a bit of a panel, but we're also going to start to prototype AI solutions for capital project delivery. So I think in the talk last week, and there's a paper that's coming out before the event, and I think I've just asked for feedback, but we're asking for AI challenges in capital project delivery, and then the AI team in MethodGrid are going to try and work on some prototypes to play back at the event. So we really wanted to be kind of obviously a bit of a learning session and a networking session for all of you, but also for us to kind of show you how easy it can be in terms of translating your requirements into a solution using AI. Cool. So yeah, please, if you would like to come along and attend, please, if you contact Tom directly, and we'll try and reserve you a spot if it's available. Lovely. Well, that's yeah. So that concludes the live demo. If you want a more deeper conversation about MethodGrid and want to chat, then please feel free to contact me directly, or please, I think if you send a booking on our website, it'll access my diary for a session. But guys, really thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful week, and yeah, see you soon. Take care.